So the third area is not only are elders to teach, not only are they to protect, but they're also to lead. This is a proactive movement on their part. The elders aren't to just be passive people that just watch over, kind of like a shepherd who's, everything's all nice and cozy, the sheep are bedded down, I'll just kind of sit back and watch, and I don't have to look too closely, and the whole time there's wolves sneaking in because it's getting a little dark, and they drop the ball, so to speak. This concept of leading has an active component to it. It means not being passive, but always being out there leading the sheep to where they need to be. So, 1 Timothy chapter 5 uses the word prohistemi in the Greek. When it says elders who rule well, that's the word prohistemi, are to be considered worthy of double honor. He's clearly identifying that there is a ruling aspect of elders, and the word prohistemi means to rule or to govern. It means they are in some way organizing and bringing people together to lead them in the way that they should go. Now, one of the challenges of being a leader among God's people is a lot of God's people don't want to follow. It just seems like it'd be so great to be a leader, and then when you get to be a leader and people don't respond to you, it makes it very difficult. And that's why he says to those that do it well, it's such a hard job. There's some that do it well, okay? They're worthy of double honor. He says in 1 Thessalonians, Paul writes, "But we request of you, brother, that you appreciate those who diligently labor among you and have charge over you in the Lord and give you instruction." The elders are men that have a responsibility to God. They're going to stand before God and answer for how they've led his people. Now, I don't know how this bears out here in this particular church, but a common complaint I hear in many places, and some of the fellows that I'm working together on developing some resource material, we've all recognized, and we've shared these ideas before, that a common complaint is people saying the elders are not leading. They're overseeing, they're teaching, but they're not leading. They're not managing us. They're not giving us a direction, a vision. People say they don't have any vision. Same problems reappear month after month, year after year, and they're never addressed. And it's frustrating to the flock. People want to be led by competent, confident, spirit-filled, spirit-given leaders. People need that challenge. Now, someone has suggested that leadership could be defined this way. Leadership is influence. Have you ever been around somebody who, nothing's happening, and when a person says, "Hey, I got an idea, let's go and do this," and for some reason everybody starts gathering around and they say, "Do this, and here's how we can do it," and people say, "Yeah, that makes sense," and they all do it. That's what leadership is. It doesn't matter what title you have or your position. Leadership is influencing people. Howard Hendricks used to say, "If you think you are a leader, then turn around and see how many people are following." It's easy to say you're a leader, and in some circles it's quite popular to talk about leadership issues, but the question is anybody following you? I might add to Dr. Hendricks, if you think you are a spiritual leader, how many people following you are walking in a more Christ-like way? That's convicting, isn't it? And I say this not just to elders, but I say it to all of us. If you want to be a person of influence, ask yourself, are my conversations with people resulting in people coming more to be like Christ, or is it hindering people in some way? Now, when we talk about leadership and elders leading, it's very clear that elders are to lead, but that doesn't mean all elders are gifted leaders. Just like Paul says to Timothy, do the work of an evangelist, it's clear to me that Timothy is not an evangelist, because you show me an evangelist, you don't have to tell them to do the work of an evangelist. They are doing it. They can't help but to do it. I know one fella that it just comes out of his mouth. I asked him, well, how do you do that? And he said, I don't know, it just happens, you know. And in the same way, elders are called to do the work of a leader. They may not be gifted leaders, but God does provide leaders. Look what it says in Romans chapter 12 and verse 8. The one who exhorts, and he's a whole list of things that are spiritual gifts, and he's challenging them. The one who exhorts, let him excel in his exhortation. The one who contributes, let him excel, that's the idea there, in his generosity. The one who zeals, let him do it with, the one who leads, let him do it with zeal or diligence. In other words, if you have the gift of elder or a gift of leadership, then do it and give it your best effort. And those of us that aren't leaders, let that person lead. I've been in groups where if someone shows leadership, other people are saying, oh, he's trying to take over. No, he's trying to lead and use the gift. Sometimes we lose people that are good leaders because we don't let them leave, and then we say, well, see, they weren't committed. You know, we sometimes let people who are gifted teachers, they leave because we don't give them the opportunity to use their gift fully. And so we lose people because we're trying to make other people do the areas of gift that they don't have. When the people that do have the gift, we're afraid they're going to do too much. And Paul says the one who's gifted with the ability to lead, or some translation has to administrate, let them do it with zeal, turn them loose. And my observation and experience is we don't have enough people who can lead, and whereby we give them the leeway to lead and to give them the freedom. Some elders will have the gift of leadership, others will have to struggle with it. And there's a sense in which elders have to recognize that maybe there's those that are not elders that are gifted as leaders, and we need to give them permission, freedom, and to use today's parlance, we need to empower them to lead. I've heard people say, well, I want to do something. And I said, well, why don't you do it? And he says, well, I don't have the elders' backing. And until I'm blue in my face, I said, well, just do it. You don't need their backing. But at the same time, I'm thinking, I know what that's like. When you're doing something and the elders take it or leave it, if you want to do it, fine. If you don't want to do it. And what they need is the elder come along, hey, God's given you a burden. I'm going to pray for you. How can I help you? I mean, when someone hears an elder say that, that is empowering. You might say, well, I don't need that. Well, no, I mean, there's a lot of things we don't need. But God has given us gifts and abilities, and elders are those that will stir those up when they see it in other people. So if someone has the ability to lead, let them lead. Don't worry if they're going to do it out of self-glory. If God's given them that burden, you can help them, guide them, and direct them, but don't squelch them. We're in need of biblical leadership, people who love the flock and want to lead the flock. And it might mean taking on a new project. It might mean helping the whole assembly and church in a certain direction. We're weak in this area. We need to, if body life is struggling and not many people are involved during the week in fellowshipping, then the elders need to be thinking, how can we lead the group to value getting together in small group ministries or here on a Tuesday night? And too often we just stand up making out, you need to be here. Like Romans or Hebrews, somewhere it says, forsake not the assembling yourselves together. So we're going to lay a law on people, and hopefully they're going to be guilted into coming. That's not leadership. Anybody can do that, if you want to lay a guilt trip on them. Leadership is showing people, leading them so that they follow. And that takes skill, that takes leadership, it takes work.